Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel today. Now, I thought I'd do this video because last week, after getting in an argument with my father, as I spoke on the phone, I did a video about the death penalty or capital punishment, whatever you want to call it at the end of the day, because my father phoned me up and he's basically a supporter of capital punishment. And after the little girl's parents got found not guilty at the Old Bailey for their murder of the little 13-year-old girl, he was telling me basically it was people like me that was the problem in this country, that people like them should be dealt with like back in the day, you know, when it was when it got outlawed about late 50s, early 60s, somewhere around then, and it should be brought back. Now, obviously, I did a video, and I wasn't surprised that I got quite a bit of engagement, got quite a few messages. So today, I thought I'd take a look at those messages and speak about some of the things that people have said, because you know that's one of the things about this channel that I created. One, it is about me giving my personal opinions of what I actually think, but it's also giving the voice to other people if they think I'm wrong or they want to give their personal opinion, and I'll actually listen to it. Okay, so I thought I'd do it today to actually have a look, go through the messages, because I do try and respond to them all, and see what other people actually think. So the first person I came across was this person. As I look down, I'm actually looking at my iPad, trying to read it off as well, because I'm not at my desktop at the moment. And they said, would it be for medical, political, or judicial reasons? Now, at the end of the day, this is pretty obvious. You know, I'm not in favour of what the government have just voted in when it comes to the thing for when it's for medical. And I'll put this one to bed straight away. The main reason I'm not in favour of that is because it's when it's later and there's an argument for that family members are doing it to take advantage because maybe it's a lot of inheritance or something like that. It's at the early stage when, you know, for instance, I've known people that have had Alzheimer's, and as it gets further and further, they've lost their marbles. They don't know what they're agreeing to at the end of the day. And legally, should they really be able to do it? If it's in the early stages or if it's cancer or something like that, I can agree with that. I've got no problem with that. If it's later, then no, I categorically won't agree with it. Okay. Now, obviously, this is for judicial reasons. So I hope that puts that person to bed. Now, this next person said, no, until you can be sure there can never be any mistakes, and I don't think that's possible regarding, but it will stop murders. Well, it didn't when we did have it, so I don't think that's a valid reason. Well, when it comes to that, the UK doesn't have a massive murder rate as such compared to some countries. You could go around the world, you know, some places in South America, United States, South Africa. They have massive murder rates compared to us. I know it's an awful thing for me to say, but we're beginners when it comes to murder. Yes, we do have murders up and down this country, but we don't have a massive murder rate. Next one's by this other guy, and he says, it's a slippery slope. They've just decided for state-sanctioned suicide. That's a bit harsh because it hasn't gone through. It's still got to go through the House of Lords yet, and then it's got to come back to the House of Commons, and then it's got to be signed off by King Charles. Now, obviously, when it comes to King Charles, he will sign it no matter what. You know, Queen Elizabeth II, I don't think she ever refused to sign anything as soon as it went to her. As soon as it goes to the to the heir, it gets signed off. Okay, so the House of Lords is another argument, whether it goes straight through or not. Our leaders are happy for us to die if they benefit. Now, I don't mind the first part, because he is correct. It is a slippery slope, but you're looking at going down. There's a massive argument for the second bit, but I understand where they're coming from. Next person says, it won't happen in the UK. You are correct, it won't happen in the UK. You would have to change so many things fundamentally because of things that we have to do with in Europe and internationally, but it is very unlikely to happen in the UK. But there's still a discussion because there is a lot of people out there that want it brought back, like the next person. Yes, bring it back. They don't give me a reason, but they believe it should be brought back. Next person. Now, they've got a very good point here. The current situation of a mandatory life sentence for murder should mean exactly that. Life, not 25, 30 or 35 years, etc. A whole life sentence should be for one murder, not just for several murders. Now, the problem is, judges are stuck in an awkward position. They can only go by what the law says. And if a defendant at the end of the day pleads guilty, they're going to get some lenience. And the fundamental reason they're going to get given lenience is if it's a case of, let's say for instance, a rape and it's not a murder. Okay, I know people have been raped. I've dealt with cases that have. When I looked at newspapers and radio station, you know, I came across them. I know people that have physically been raped from in my own personal life, going back many years. Now, would I want to see them having to go through the process of going through the court system? No. So if that can be saved from them, and for instance, the guy or maybe woman, because women do commit rapes as well, get a few years off or get a bit of time off, saving them from going through the ordeal of having to face up to a barrister who is going to absolutely destroy them on the stand, then I can accept that. And some people may come and bash me for that. I'm willing to take that. You know, I've got broad shoulders. I'm a big boy. I can accept that. Where I do have a problem is when a judge will, for instance, let's say, for instance, they give them 20 years and then they're out in 10. That's where I do have a problem. And I think a lot of the country also have a gripe when it's a case of that, when a judge is actually giving them a sentence for so long. If you take, for instance, when Labour came into power and they started letting people out early, if their sentence was over 6 years, they're automatically letting them out. And, you know, there was the cases I know I got talked about on Talk TV. I watch Talk TV now and then when I can be bothered. And they were being picked up and, like, I know it's very extreme, you know, as people getting picked up in Lamborghinis, having parties outside the jail, you know, cracking bottles of champagne and all this type of stuff. And then within a matter of days, they're being picked up and thrown back in jail yet again because they've gone and committed another crime. You know, that's what does annoy people. Next thing is, can our government really be trusted with the death penalty? Which is another one, which they got a very good point. And somebody said no to this. They are probably correct that the government can't be trusted with it. Quite apart from the fact that it's very difficult to pardon someone, this is my argument, if they are dead and it's later found they are innocent, in the US states which use capital punishment, it is actually more expensive to execute than to just lock them up. Whenever I encounter an enthusiast for the death penalty, I direct them to the excellent BBC. Oh God, I can't believe I'm going to read this. Documentary 14 Days in May, which follows the last 2 weeks of a condemned man who always maintained his innocence. Well worth a watch. What convict doesn't say that they're innocent? The problem is, and this is the fundamental problem, and this is where I see it, there are too many crimes of where people have been convicted and there's always going to be a bit of doubt. If it was, say, for instance, somebody's going to, so you're going to do it on a murder primarily, or say, for instance, treason. They're arguably the two main ones, but you can see that they're going to be done for. If you can say with 100% guarantee that they did it, and you've got, say, for instance, like video footage and witnesses and all of that, you know, so you can see that they've done it. Lee Rigby, classic case. Then I've got no problem with it. Then the next problem is, how do you do it? Now, until about a year ago, I never realised how evil doing hanging was. So I wouldn't be in favour of bringing back hanging. And I only found out about that because, believe it or not, I went on a ghost hunt and we went to a place where they actually did hanging. And they actually showed us how much they actually suffered and what actually the body went through when somebody got executed by hanging. So I wouldn't be in favour of that. Now, obviously America has the lethal injection. Now, the argument is people that get executed by lethal injection, they can suffer. The evidence backs that up. You know, that's why a lot of states in America aren't doing executions at the moment still, because of the pain and suffering. So that one's out. What other ones have there been? So when it comes to milk, the only way I can actually see that you can realistically do it is the firing squad. Now, back in the day, you would say, for instance, have 5 people with guns and only one would be live. So nobody had the guilt or conscience that they had killed somebody, because only one would be live, 4 would be dead. So you could go to sleep that night now thinking, I wasn't the one. It was that moron over there. But because you're not guaranteed that if you've only got one that's actually going to kill, I would actually say if you had five shooters, all 5 should have live ammunition. And that's the way I would look at it, just so that you're damn sure that the person's going to die. So if you was going to do it on that basis, where you're 100% guaranteed, then I would be in favour of the firing squad, because I would say that would be the most humane way that you could execute somebody. But then the fundamental thing is, how many cases come along where you're 100% guaranteed that that was the person? Doesn't happen very often. Very few and far between. And that's where my problem is. So the reality is, death penalty is never going to come back to the UK, because there'll be too many, politicians nowadays ain't got what it takes to put things forward which people are going to be against. Fundamentally, number one. I would use certain wording. Ain't probably going to be too popular. In a nutshell, I ain't got the balls to do it. Second of all, you know, you got human rights issues as well, because the UK has become so wokey. As much as my wife hates me saying that, it is the reality of the case. So maybe one day it will happen. So let me know today in the comments below of anything else that you think. Okay. I will try and get back to everybody for any comments you do put. But for now, thanks for listening. And I'll speak to you again a bit later. And if you want me to do another video on this, just let us know. Okay, but for now, thanks for listening.